Good morning and welcome to the Scenic Regional Council Ordinary Meeting for Wednesday the 23rd of July 2025. I'd like to commence the meeting by acknowledging the traditional owners on the lands that we meet and pay respect to elders past and present. I believe we have a full attendance today, no apologies. And now we'll turn to online and welcome Pastor Josh Cox for prayers. Good morning, Pastor.
Good morning, Mayor Tom and councillors and executive. Apologies that I can't be there in person this morning. Just two things that have been on my mind. Last night I was playing netball in the local netball courts and getting flogged, of course, by a younger team. But there was a beautiful mist settled on the courts during the game, and even though I was running ragged, I couldn't help but notice the beauty of that in the early hours of the evening. And the second thing, it brought to mind a verse in James chapter 4, but the second thing is that I'm taking a funeral this morning, only in an hour or so, and the lady is of good age. She was 84 years, but it did bring back this same verse in James chapter 4, which says, "Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we'll go to such and such a city, spend a year there, buy and sell, and make a profit. Whereas you do not know what will happen tomorrow. For what is your life? It is even a vapor that appears for a little time and then vanishes away." That same word vapor, some translations have mist. So just that reminder that life is or can be short. It can be not. We don't know what will happen tomorrow, and just that idea of that we actually need to live in the moment, redeem our time, spend it well, ensure that we are living with purpose and hope. And so with that in mind, let me pray and just commit this meeting to God. Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for this day, this beautiful day, and we give you thanks and praise for who you are. And Lord, just ask and pray for guidance, Lord, for all of us, that we may know hope and purpose, that we would use our time well, as the scripture says, to redeem our time. So, Lord, we ask for great wisdom as the councillors meet. We thank you, Lord, for them and their call to service, serving us in this community of the Scenic Rim. And so we pray for them in the decision making and the executive as well, and all auxiliary staff in through the meeting, but beyond that as well. And so we bring these things before you, commit ourselves to you in this day, and we pray in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. Pastor Josh, thank you for your sage words and your prayers. And yes, life is fleeting, so it is for all of us to make the most of what we have and what we can do. Thank you, and we wish you all the very best for the day, and we look forward to when next we meet. Cheers.
Excellent. Thank you.
I believe there's no questions on notice and no declarations of conflict of interest or announcements or petitions. So we'll move to item 9, confirmation of the minutes. Call a motion from the floor. Councillor McInnes.
The minutes of the ordinary meeting held on 25th of June 2025 be accepted.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconder. Councillor Moriarty. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. I don't believe there is business arising, so we'll move to item 11.1 and call upon Councillor Moriarty.
No.
Oh, sorry.
I'm happy to do that one if you wish, Mr. Mayor.
1 minutes of the special meeting for 9th of July. Councillor Sanders.
I would like to move the motion that the minutes of the special meeting held on the 9th of July 2025 be adopted. I fully read them and I believe them to be true and correct.
Thank you. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Chalk. Those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Now move to item 11.1. Call upon Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce item 11.1, the Local Government Association of Queensland's 129th Annual Conference 2025. I'll introduce the motion as it stands that 1, Council note that the Local Government Association of Queensland's 129th Annual Conference will be held at the Gold Coast from the 20th to the 22nd of October 2025. 2, the Mayor and Deputy Mayor be nominated as Council's delegates at the conference and councillors be endorsed as observers. 3, Council authorise payment of all reasonable costs incurred by the attendees in relation to attendance at this event, including travel, accommodation and incidentals. Noting the estimated cost of attendance per person is $2,345, GST inclusive. 4, the Local Government Association of Queensland's 129th Annual Conference Program be tabled, received and attached to the minutes of this ordinary meeting, and I'm in possession of a hard copy of the program. Question 5, Council will present to a future ordinary meeting a report detailing matters considered at the annual conference that are applicable to our region and are of value to the ratepayers of the constituents. And 6, Council will present to a future ordinary meeting a financial report of all outgoings relating to the annual conference.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconded to the motion, Councillor Cryer. Councillor Moriarty, you wish to talk to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to note that the LGAQ annual conference is quite possibly the most important conference in the local government calendar in our state for the year. It's a wonderful opportunity for our mayor and councillors to meet with mayors and councillors from councils all over Queensland and gather and share knowledge and experiences and make connections and advocate for our region. I do believe it's important that every councillor and the mayor have the opportunity to attend the conference, noting that possibly not every councillor will go, but it's important that everyone at least has the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? That said, I'll put the motion to the floor. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Call upon Councillor Hay to introduce item 11.2.
Thank you, Chair. I'm introducing item 11.2, Material Change of Use 24/043, Development Permit for a Material Change of Use for a dual occupancy and reconfiguring a lot, access easement located at 36 Bartle Road and 62 Bartle Road, Tamborine Mountain, described as Lot 1 RP 178-303 and Lot 23 RP 40985. This is a dual application. One is for the dual occupancy and the second part is for the access easement onto the Shelf Road. I'll just go straight to the motion and then I'd like to speak to my motion, please. Okay. The motion is that 1, Council receive and note the report titled Development Application MCU 24/043 for a development permit for a material change of use for a dual occupancy and reconfiguring a lot, access easement through Lot 23 RP 40985 over the property located at 36 Bartle Road and 62 Bartle Road, Tamborine Mountain, formerly described as Lot 1 RP 178-303 and Lot 23 RP 40985, and 2, Council refused development application MCU 24/043 as the proposed development conflicts with the local categorising instrument Scenic Rim Planning Scheme 2020 as amended 30 June 2023 for the following reasons. A, the proposed development conflicts with acceptable outcome 10.4 and corresponding performance outcome 10, PO10, of the reconfiguring a lot code, and B, the proposed development conflicts with the purpose and overall outcome 2.B6 of the reconfiguring a lot code.
Thank you, Councillor. Could I have a seconder to the motion? Councillor Moriarty, thank you. Councillor Cryer, would you like to talk to the motion? Councillor Hay, sorry, would you like to talk to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This item came before council previously and was deferred as it was considered to need some additional information, and most of that has been forthcoming. The actual dual occupancy component doesn't quite meet the requirement for a 5 metre setback on the western boundary, and that has been explained by the applicant as being due to there being mapped vegetation overlay, I think it is, on that site. Still, given the size of the property, I would have liked to have seen them comply with the setbacks. Still, never mind. Given that the reason that the easement has been applied for as 6 metres rather than the required 10 metres in the planning scheme, was stated to be that there was vegetation that they needed to avoid, putting the driveway to the north of the proposed dual occupancy to join up with the access to the driveway that already exists to Bartle Road. Given that it was stated that it was due to minimising the loss of habitat and vegetation, there was no vegetation assessment done on the property whatsoever, so I would have liked to have seen that done to identify which trees were considered to be problematic to join the access onto the existing driveway that goes through to Bartle Road, rather than having excuse me, a need for an easement that goes down onto an even more problematic Shelf Road. I'd like to ask that a diagram be put up, please, if I can find which one it was. I'll just have to scroll through the report. Won't be a minute. Bear with me, please. Okay. It's on page 20 of the late item agenda. It's figure 3, proposed access easement.
One email through yesterday.
11.2, page 20. Oh, it's not late item. Not late.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Okay. Right. The proposed easement that you're looking at there, which is the bit that runs diagonally between the bottom of the property or into the property and joining onto the Shelf Road, measures 6 metres. Now, the applicant actually registered a right-of-way easement with the Queensland Land Registry on the 12th of December 2022, long before this application was submitted. The approved and registered easement is 8.25 metres wide at the top and 7.094 metres wide at the entry to the road. And this document was included in the owner's consent document on the 8th of May 2024, which was part of the original application. The planning scheme's quite clear that the easement minimum width must be 10 metres for the entire length of the easement, and that has not been complied with. And given the issues on the Shelf Road at present, which include the clearing of vegetation across the road in the Bartle Park and the adjoining property next door, which has resulted in a significant amount of clearing, I just have concerns that on the advisability of adding yet another access driveway onto what could be a problematic location in the future. I've got another diagram that I'd like put up. I think I sent it through, Sharon, or it was an aerial photo. Did you get that one?
Oh, you think that one?
Is it that one?
Yes. Okay, I'll just have to stand up to talk to this one. This is the property the existing house, and the proposed easement is here, just past the kink in the Shelf Road. If you look directly across the road, this is 1 to 23, the Shelf Road. This entire cleared area is now the staging site for the repairs to Shelf Road, which collapsed in 2022. So this is where all of the works are going to be operating from to fix down here. So the traffic lights are, if I've got it right, somewhere about here. And it's been one lane since 2022 because the road collapsed. So there's only a single lane access, traffic lights operating from the top and the bottom for no traffic to pass by. This is Jack Bartle Park. We've already lost part of the park. It's been cleared as part of the land needed to fix up both the electricity access, which has had to be realigned, and also for the road. And this next property here is also, that's a council controlled property, and we've lost a lot of the vegetation on that one as well already. And I just have real concerns that putting an easement onto here, which is very close to where the road collapse happened, is probably not a very advisable thing to do, given the nature of the Shelf Road and the other issues that council's currently experiencing with the residents. I don't think I've got much else to say. I just think it's inappropriate to have it there. It needs to be a minimum of 10 metres, and I just call on a seconder first. Do we have a seconder?
Yes,
No,
we do.
did. Okay, someone else if they'd like to speak on that as well. Thank you. Given the foreseeable problems with an easement in that location.
Is there anyone wishing to speak against the motion?
Not really speaking against a question, Councillor Haven, and I think I've only travelled that road twice, but where that easement's coming out, it is actually fairly flat compared, it's not on the side of the hill from memory, just get is my recollection correct on that?
No, it's, sorry, I might ask the officer to address that. I believe there is a 15 to 25% slope there, where the easement's going, from memory.
I don't have the exact gradient, but there is a slope. It's not completely flat in that location. A design has been provided as part of the response to the information requests, which shows that access and how it would interact with the road.
Thank you.
I'm just looking at the overlay 7A landslips hazard steep slope on page 35, and it does say the slope is around about 20 to 25% and increasing around about that site.
Mayor, can I just
Councillor?
confirm with Councillor Hay that the dual occupancy is not the issue, it's just the easement that is your concern, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. As I said, it doesn't meet the western setback of 5 metres, but I'm prepared to concede that. Yes, my concern is only the easement. If it was proposed that it's been said in the documents that this is the most appropriate location for an access to the dual occupancy building, but there's been no evidence put forward regarding the vegetation that may or may not need to be removed. I'll just speak again to this. The dual occupancy is going to be located here. The existing house is up there. I'm not aware that there's any mapped core koala habitat or vegetation that needs to be retained between the top of that proposed dual occupancy and the existing driveway, which is like a battle axe access there. If I was putting in an application and I was arguing that I needed to have an access down onto a fairly vulnerable road, I think the least I would have done would have been to have had a vegetation survey done to identify the trees that I'm saying can't possibly be removed to enable access through onto the adjoining existing driveway.
Thank you, councillor. Any further questions? Could you bring the motion back up? Thank you. Okay, anyone wishing to talk against the motion? And I believe, councillor, you've nothing further to add?
Plenty, but I'll stop.
Thank you. And if that's, with that said, I'll put the motion to the members. Those in favour? Those against? Note the division. For Division 1, 2, 3, 4 and 6 against Division 5. Councillor Chalk, thank you. Now move on to item 11.3, call upon the CEO.
Through Mr. Mayor, I'll call upon the Acting General Manager.
Thanks, Mr. CEO. Mr. Mayor, at the request of since the papers have been published, at the request of the applicant, they've sought to withdraw the application for today's proceedings to allow for further discussions to occur regarding associated with the road issues that are.
Thank you. And now call upon CEO for introducing item 11.4.
Through the Acting General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Through the Mayor, also similarly with this application, the applicant has contacted officers and sought to withdraw the application from today's deliberations to allow for further discussions to occur with respect to their application.
Thank you, General Manager. So item 11.4 also withdrawn. We move to item 11.5 and call upon Councillor Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 11.5, 2025, the Long Sunset Update. So there's been a few changes in relation to the Long Sunset. I'll just very quickly give a little bit of background before I put the motion. Long Sunset 2024 was held at Elysian Fields in Boyland in November. Music Festival was presented as part of the Scenic Rim Trail, also incorporating the Taste of Country event at the Overflow Estate in 1895. The goal was to generate increased attendance and economic outcomes. So there is some changes, so I'll put the motion first and then if I can speak to it, that would be wonderful, Mr. Chair. The option is, option 1, that 1, council approve a category 2 event sponsorship total of $75,000 for the Scenic Rim Trail and the Long Sunset 2025 in accordance with the regional event sponsorship, council policy and corporate procedure, and 2, the sponsorship is to be conditioned upon A, Queensland Music Festival utilising $20,000 of this funding to improve integration and presentation of local Scenic Rim performers and artists, and B, a mutually accepted council compliant venue in the Scenic Rim being secured as the 2025 event venue for the Long Sunset, and C, Queensland Music Festival providing a Scenic Rim Trail proposal for 2025 to Council, including further detail on the proposed 2025 trail of events and an update on headline artist negotiations, ticket pricing and planning for the Long Sunset.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Chalk, thank you. Councillor Sanders, you'd like to talk to your motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, okay. On 9th of April 2025, Aquis Farm formally advised Council that the board decided that Aquis Farm would not be proceeding with hosting the Long Sunset at Elysian Fields 2025. It's very sad to hear. It's envisaged that the Scenic Rim Trail will commence activities on the 31st of October, with the Long Sunset held at the Boona Showgrounds on 1st of November 2025. And due to the venue change, some artists are in negotiation but are yet to be contracted, and ticket pricing may vary as QMF progresses with the planning of the event. In 2025, Council has allocated $170,000 of operational budget from the 2025 to 2026 financial year. This is broken into $150,000 sponsorship fee and $20,000 of leveraging budget. But as you can see, due to the change and changing numbers, we will reduce that to a Category 2 event sponsorship totaling $75,000.
Thank you, Councillor. Any questions from the floor? Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? I put the motion to the floor. Those in favour? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think Boona is very excited about this one. This is going to be great.
Call upon Councillor Chalk to introduce item 11.16.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yesterday I introduced report 11.6, which is the proposed issue of a lease to community organisation Rotary Club of Boona. I'll move straight to a motion, then I'll speak briefly on the topic. The motion will be that 1, Council resolve that the exception under section 236(1)(b)(2) of the Local Government Regulations 2012 applies to the proposed grant of a lease to Rotary Club of Boona Incorporated for premises situated at lease area C, lot 2 on RP 153509, situated at Coronation Park, Coronation Drive, Boona. 2, Council endorse a 5-year lease on a standard terms as issued by Council for Rotary Club of Boona Incorporated, expiring 30th of June 2030. And 3, Council delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer in accordance with section 2571 of the Local Government Act 2009 to finalise and execute a lease agreement to Rotary Club of Boona Incorporated.
Thank you. Seconded to the motion, Councillor Sanders. Councillor Chalk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Rotary Club of Boona are a fantastic organisation. We just recently attended the changeover dinner with you, Mr. Mayor, and Councillor McGuinness, and you, President Lisa, will certainly test them all those oldies out this year. So really pleased to support this motion. Yeah, they do a lot for the region, and have a lot of big plans to assist our area to go forward. So I'm very supportive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any questions? Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? I put it to the floor then. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And call upon Councillor Moriarty to introduce item 11.7.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce item 11.7, proposed issue of lease to community organisation, the Scout Association of Australia, Queensland Branch, Canungra. I'll take the report as read and introduce the motion as tabled. That 1, Council resolve the exception under section 2361B. Oh, is that a 2 or a 3? Sorry, 2. Sorry, it's a little bit distant. Of the local government, thank you, regulation 2012 applies to the proposed grant of lease to the Scout Association of Australia, Queensland Branch, Inc. for premises situated at 3086 Beachmont Road, Withering, Lot 1 on RP 145256. 2, Council endorse a 5-year freehold lease on standard terms as issued by Council for the Scout Association of Australia, Queensland Branch, Inc., expiring 30th of June 2030. And 3, Council delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer in accordance with section 2571 of the Local Government Act 2009 to finalise and execute a lease agreement to the Scout Association of Australia, Queensland Branch, Inc.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Hay, thank you. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to recognise the Canungra Scout Group. The lease was previously held by both the Girl Guides and the Canungra Scouts. The Girl Guides have dropped off, but the lease renewal will be taken up by the Scout Association. Recognise the hard-working volunteers and the work they're doing to re-establish and reinvigorate the Canungra Scout Group. It's a wonderful location on the Coomera River, and not only serve the Canungra Scout Group but also the broader Gold Coast District Scout Group, who quite frequently attend and conduct camps and the like on that in that location. So I wish the group all the very best with their lease and thank them for the stewardship of the site and the work that they do in our community.
Thank you, councillor. Any questions? Actually put it to the floor then. Those in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you. Call upon Councillor Cryer to introduce item 11.8.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to introduce item 11.8, Investigation Policy Councillor Conduct. I take the report as read. The Local Government Act 2009 LGA requires Council to adopt an investigations policy. The policy prescribes the process to be followed when complaints of conduct breaches by a councillor are referred to the Council from the Independent Assessor IA for investigation. The policy contains several prescriptive steps that councillors and executive officers should follow, and the proposed investigation policy has been amended to reflect best practices for managing matters referred from the assessor and conducting councillor conduct investigations in line with legislative obligations. So I'd like to go to the motion to move that one council adopt the amended investigation policy.
Thank you. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Sanders. You wish to talk to the motion, Councillor Cryer?
Yes, just a small amount that it allows for protection on both sides of the fence. The policy speaks about natural justice, which it has three key principles. So the person being investigated has the chance to have his or her say, that the investigator should be objective and impartial. Any action taken is based on evidence. And so this ensures that a fair hearing means the councillor who is subject of the suspected inappropriate conduct matter is dealt with in a fair manner.
Thank you, councillor, and note your comments around natural justice and pursuing that path. Is there any questions in relation to the matter? Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? I put it to the members. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Now introduce item 11.9. All right, introducing 11.9, which is the 2025 interim report from the Auditor General. And this report, which I will take as read, presents the Auditor General's observation interim report relating to the interim audit of Council's financial statements for the 2024-2025 financial year. And I put the motion that in accordance with Section 213 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council note the Auditor General's observation interim report for the 2024-2025 financial year. Could I have seconded to the motion? Councillor Sanders, thank you. I just give really it is in accordance with the legislation, but just to provide extra, it's in accordance with Section 54 of the Auditor General Act 2009. The Auditor General must prepare an observation report about the audit of local government's financial statements. And Section 213 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 requires that the Mayor presents a copy of this report at the extraordinary ordinary meeting. these reports about the audit of Council's financial statements prepared under Section 54 of the Auditor General Act 2009 include the observations and suggestions made by the Auditor General about anything arising out of the audit. Talking to that report, I'll just make note of and read this as part of the report for transparency purposes. There were significant deficiencies recognised, one resolved from prior years in relation to non-compliance with tender process, and we have noted significant improvements, including the development of a procurement documentation suite available to council staff. There were no findings identified during our interim audit, but note continued education is required as part of council's procurement improvement project. Deficiencies. 2 raised in the current year deficiencies relating to the reconciliation of waste charges to the Mandalay system and manual timesheets. 4 unresolved items from prior years relating to IT policy and framework. Financial reporting matters. 1 unresolved from prior years relating to the impairment review of assets. Based on the results of our testing completed to date and the resolution of prior year issues, we have determined your internal control environment does not support an audit strategy where we can rely upon your entity's controls. I note those were the highlights from that report and make the point that this oversight is of value in terms of recognising council deficiencies, but also the cooperation of council to work towards rectifying those matters and the ongoing commitment of improvement through the auditing process that relates directly back to our operations. Is there anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Or any questions arising?
No, Mr. Mayor, but I'd just like to make a comment that I think this gives a lot of comfort to our ratepayers and people who are interested in what council does. I think the fact that we're continuously audited and reviewed, and if they didn't find something, I'd be really, really surprised. So I think this is all about a learning organisation. We learn from what we're doing not so well and try and do it better continuously. It's all about transparency. It's all about doing the best for our ratepayers and making sure that everything we do is above board. And then, of course, you know, we've got those couple of deficiencies in the IT area, and we know what's going on there, and we're focusing on making sure that there's money budget in the budget to update our IT, which is absolutely wonderful. So I think a lot of people should take this report as something to provide more transparency, and it proves that our internal controls are being tested, and we're learning from things that we need to make changes with.
Thank you, Councillor. And note within those comments the continuous attention to improvement, and yes, the investment that has been made over the coming course of the next 3 years to deliver a modernised IT capability for this council and benefits to the region. Thank you. No one wishing to talk against the motion, then I put it to the floor. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Now turn to item 11.10 and call upon Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce item 11.10, Council Interim Monthly Financial Report for June 2025. I'll take the report as read and introduce the motion that Council receive and note the Interim Monthly Financial Report for June 2025.
Thank you. A second to the motion, Councillor Sanders. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Mayor. I just note in the executive summary that the cash at bank balances at the 30th of June was $49.6 million, give or take, approximately $1 million more than the budget, which I would consider, hopefully that's a good thing. But beyond that, I'd just like to, through the chair, hand over to the officers for perhaps a brief summary of any highlights or areas of concern, or just a summary of the report, please.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Through the chair. As noted, it's only an interim shortened report this month. Due to end of financial year, we're still processing our accruals, recalculating our provisions, processing asset capitalisations, revaluations and so forth. So we're not in a position to provide the income statement and balance sheet at this time. However, due to legislation, it does require us to put a financial report to council each month. So we put together what information we can do and what won't change, which is the cash balance won't change. We put together the investment information is included in the report, and the debtors information is in the report. The final report we intend to present to council during the September round of meetings. We line that up with the Infrastructure Services Directorate, which will be putting together the report on the project and capital expenditure at that time as well. Thank you. Unless there's any questions.
Just one question through the CEO in relation to the year-on-year change where the outstanding debtors is continuing to rise. Can you give us give us a little bit of insight to that increase on change on year and what might be behind that trend?
Yes, through the chair. So I presume you're referring to the report on page 4 of the graph on page 4 of the report, which is the rolling 12-month average outstanding rates balance. So it has been steadily increasing over the past number of years due to, I guess it started when COVID kicked in, and we held off on following our debtors up at that time due to difficulties of ratepayers to get money in and to pay the debt. That happened for a couple of years. Even after COVID, probably another year before council started following debts up again. And I think it's only probably in the last 6 months, and the General Manager might be able to assist me with this, that we're actually starting to get a debt collector involved again to start chasing the debts up actively. But the General Manager might have more information to provide.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, and through the chair, we've already started an expression of interest process to come up with a debt collector that will start our debt collection, and we will start that process in September when that contract has been awarded to a debt collector.
Thank you. Councillor Hay.
I just have one question in regard to the outstanding debt. Do we have any properties that have been identified as being likely to be sold to recover the debt?
We have got some properties that are likely to be sold, and staff are currently doing up a report to bring back to council around that now.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? I'll put it to the floor. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. I'll move to late item 11.11 and call upon Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. I'm introducing item 11.11, which was a late item, MCU 23/189, development permit for a material change of use for short-term accommodation, 19 to 25 Carpo Lane, Tamborine Mountain, Lot 5 on RP 868391, and I take the report as read. By way of introduction, the proposed development includes 4 guest units and 1 manager's residence in the form of 3 new self-contained 2-storey cottages, which I'll refer to as cabins, situated in the southeast corner of the site, and a conversion of the site's current large primary dwelling to a guest unit, large shared facilities and a very small manager's residence. I'll move straight to the motion and then I'll speak to each item of the motion. Now, the motion is somewhat different to what appears, so I'll go through them. I've got the 7 items, I think. Okay. The motion is 1, that council receive and note the report titled MCU 23/189 Development Permit for a Material Change of Use for Short-Term Accommodation 19 to 25 Capo Lane, Tamborine Mountain, Lot 5, RP 868391, and 2, council refused development application MCU 23/189. The proposed development conflicts with the local 2020 as amended 30 June 2023 for the following reasons. A, the proposed use is inconsistent development as it is neither consistent nor potentially consistent development in the low density residential zone, mountain residential precinct. Sorry? Did I? No, that's A. Mine's different to what's on the screen. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, councillor, if we could just, so you've got 2 for the following reasons, and then could you just read to us A again?
A, the proposed use is inconsistent development as it is neither consistent nor potentially consistent development in the low density residential zone, mountain residential precinct.
Which is that one, so that's A.
Okay.
If you could just bear with us one moment.
Sure.
And then B?
B, the proposed development conflicts with the strategic outcome 11.E, growing economy of the strategic framework, as outlined in 3.5, growing economy, tourism and recreation.
Yeah.
And then let's see.
That's a C here. Where it conflicts with. Yeah.
Go ahead,
Yep.
councillor.
C, the proposed development conflicts with the purpose and overall outcomes 3.3.B of the low density residential zone code, mountain residential precinct.
And D, councillor?
D, the proposed development conflicts with performance outcome 7, PO7 and AO7 of the tourism use code.
Is there more?
Yep. E, the proposed development conflicts with the purpose and overall outcome 2.A of the tourism use code. F, the proposed development does not comply with the Tourism Use Code, Section 2, short-term accommodation, nature-based tourism where involving cabins and tents, tourist accommodation sites, Table 9.3.17.3.1, acceptable outcome 8.2.
No, that one's fine. I'm sure there's a G somewhere. That one.
G, the final point, the proposed development does not maintain or provide continuity of the primary residential functionality of the land.
A bit messy, but they're there. Got a H listed in your notes, councillor? No needs assessment was provided?
H, no needs assessment was provided. That's it.
Thank you, councillor. I think just for the purpose of now that let the members absorb that, would you read the motion again from the top?
I did circulate this to all councillors, but yes, from the top.
Not as, I understand, appreciate it was circulated, and you did, and thank you for that. But just as one motion, it was broken down in your circulation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you want me to start from 1 or from 2?
From
From the top.
thank you.
Okay. The motion is that 1, council receive and note the report titled MCU 23/189 Development Permit for a Material Change of Use for Short-Term Accommodation, 19 to 25 Carpo Lane, Tamborine Mountain, Lot 5, RP 868391, and 2, council refuse the development application MCU 23/189. The proposed development conflicts with the local categorising instrument Scenic Rim Planning Scheme 2020 as amended 30 June 2023 for the following reasons. A, the proposed use is inconsistent development as it is neither consistent nor potentially consistent development in the low density residential zone Mountain Residential Precinct. B, the proposed development conflicts with strategic outcome 11.E, growing economy of the strategic framework as outlined in 3.5, growing economy, tourism and recreation. C, the proposed development conflicts with the purpose and overall outcomes 3B of the low density residential zone code, Mountain Residential Precinct. D, the proposed development conflicts with performance outcome 7, PO7, and acceptable outcome 7, AO7 of the tourism use code. E, the proposed development conflicts with the purpose and overall outcomes 2.A of the tourism use code. F, the proposed development does not comply with the tourism use code section 2, short-term accommodation and nature-based tourism where involving cabins and tents, tourist accommodation sites, table 9.3.17.3.1. AO8, and I think AO8 relates to G, doesn't it? AO8.
You read it out.
I read it out. Where do I find it then? It was in F. Hold on.
Yes.
Right, hold on.
Page 4 of your notes.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Include AO 8.2. I'll talk to that shortly. G, the proposed development does not maintain or provide continuity of the primary residential functionality of the land. And H, no needs assessment was provided.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder to the motion? Councillor Cryer. All right, Councillor Hay, I'll let you talk to your motion.
Thank you. Okay, if we'll go back to the various components for refusal. I'll just start by saying formal notification was undertaken, which resulted in 49 properly made submissions and 16 not properly made submissions being received. Of the 49 properly made submissions, only 2 were supportive, and these were from the Tamborine Mountain Business Chamber and Destination Scenic Rim, which are both very tourism-centric organisations rather than impacted residents. The majority of the submissions opposed to the development were made by residents in the adjoining properties at Carpo de Monte and Yulong Street or in Carpo Lane itself. Public notification was undertaken, however it did not occur in a newspaper circulated or available in the local area, the Bow Desert Times not being available on Tamborine Mountain. There was no community contact nor consultation with residents in the immediate vicinity prior to the lodgement of the development application. Speaking to A, Where not listed in table 6.2.8.2.2, consistent uses and potentially consistent uses in the low density residential zone, mountain residential precinct, uses are inconsistent uses and are not intended to occur in the precinct. The proposed short-term accommodation use is not listed in table 5.5.8.2 and the development is located outside the minor tourism zone where such use is anticipated. B. 11.E states only that a use only involves home-based businesses, bed and breakfast and short-term accommodation, one holiday home, where in the rural residential zone where no precinct applies and mountain residential precinct of the low density residential zone due to the inconsistency of such uses with the predominantly low density residential character of the zone. A holiday home is defined in the planning scheme as short-term accommodation. It is the use of premises for providing accommodation of less than 3 consecutive months to tourists or travellers. A holiday home is a type of short-term accommodation use that 1, accommodates an individual or single groups of persons, 2, is conducted within existing self-contained dwelling, note existing, 3, visitors have the right to occupy the whole of the dwelling, and 4, does not involve any shared facilities, for example, bathrooms and kitchen facilities. Point C, refer to table 6.2.8.2, the purpose of the low density residential zone, mountain residential precinct, will be achieved through a number of overall outcomes, which I've listed there. B, land uses. Number 5, or V, where not listed in table 6.2.8.2.2, consistent uses and potentially consistent uses in the low density residential zone, mountain residential precinct, are inconsistent uses and are not intended to occur in the precinct. I think I might have doubled up on that one. D, conflicts with performance outcome 7 and acceptable outcome 7 of the tourism use code. Where involving cabins, which these effectively are, there should only be one holiday home. PO7 says the development is small scale and is compatible with the character and amenity of the area. AO7 says cabins have a maximum gross floor area of 100 metre square each. However, in this case, the cabins all exceed 100 metres square each considerably, and as does the holiday accommodation component in the existing dwelling. If I could just get you to call up the diagram that I sent through in an email, please.
When did you send that through?
Got about 50 different emails open here, bear with me. Okay, it was sent to David.
And I forwarded it on to you.
Yep, 10:26 yesterday.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yep, got it.
Now this diagram is not part of the report today. However, the source is page 144 of 161 information response dated the 13th of December 2024, provided by the applicant, and it gives a better idea of the site layout and coverage. So, can you make that bigger?
I don't think so. No, not really.
No?
I can try and
Just try,
I'll try
through
and
this
pop
bit,
it.
try forwarding,
No,
do it
what I'll
forward and
do
all open up.
is I will crop it. And I will put it on a blank page.
Excellent, thank you.
She's quick.
Yep, okay.
Really need it?
Yes, thank you. Outside the red square, the property to the left is Capo de Monte, which is a retirement or lifestyle village. To the north, the conglomeration of units there, they're privately owned properties as well. In Carpo Lane, I believe there's about 17 residential properties, 6 of which are not owner occupied, and I believe there are some existing Airbnbs, but I haven't been able to identify exactly which ones they are. I think there's 3. If you look at the diagram inside the red box, you'll see that whilst it's stated that the cottages or cabins are located in the bottom right-hand corner, given the proposed use includes almost all of the dwelling at the rear, it actually covers almost 50% of the property. So I don't think you could describe that as small scale. If we could go to, oh no, that one's coming, sorry, a bit later on that one. Okay, now, yes, I have issues with the all 3 of the cottages exceeding the 100 metres square acceptable outcome for cabins or cottages, and also the accommodation component in the to be converted dwelling as well. Of the 3 standalone cottages that are yet to be built, total just over 400 metres square, which is the equivalent of 4 cabins, not 3. And it's just a shame that the applicant couldn't limit what they were proposing to what the acceptable outcomes were. The proposed scale of the development exceeds the intended maximum intensity on the site, being short-term accommodation holiday home, which is 1 holiday home, not additional cabins or 3 of them. The strategic outcome details that this maximum development intensity is not to be exceeded based on the inconsistency of such uses with the predominantly low density residential character of the zone. Also in clause 2AV, the proposed scale and intensity of the proposal is not considered to be compatible with the existing and preferred character of the predominant use of the local area, which is categorised by small villas and dwelling houses, typically of a single-storey construction, specifically based on the proposed double-storey design of the new cabins and concentration of the cottages in the southeast corner. F does not comply with Tourism Use Code Section 2. Acceptable outcome 8.2 states that the development needs to have a direct association with 1, an area of environmental, landscape, science, scenic or heritage value, or 2, a place of local interest. The applicant has stated that there is no significant value identified over this land and has not identified any direct association with 1 or 2, but does talk about the Tamborine Mountain Main Street commercial precinct being located within 200 metres of the site. I'm not sure why, but the assessment officer stated the design methodology presented for the subject proposal seeks to celebrate and integrate with the existing environmental features that the site possesses. However, the applicant themselves stated there aren't any. G, the proposed development does not maintain or provide continuity of the primary residential function. This is where, if you could bring up page 84 of the late agenda, please. That's not my page 84. It's the infrastruct one which shows the existing dwelling.
This one.
11.11, attachment 3, you want attachment 1.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
late
I've
items,
got it
it's
right.
that one,
Yeah,
showing the manager's residence and the bottom.
attachment 1,
Is it?
yeah.
Sorry, I don't know where the page numbers have got out of step.
Attachment 1, was it Sean? Is that it?
No.
The last page of attachment 1.
Oh, is this because we had 11.11 and 11.12 out of order?
It's on 69.
69, okay.
69?
Right,
Yeah.
change that on there. Okay, the diagram that's on the screen now, if you could just move it a little to the left, please, Sharon. That's the existing dwelling that's proposed to be converted. Basically, all of the bottom floor, which is the big bit on the left, is going to be dedicated to guest accommodation and shared facilities for that guest accommodation unit and the 3 cottages. You'll note that there is a shared lounge, a shared dining, a shared foyer, a shared kitchen, a shared bathroom there, guest bathroom, guest accommodation and a shared laundry. On the right hand side is the manager's residence, which is a very large 83.6 metres square and does not contain any self-contained catering facilities whatsoever. So whoever stays in the manager's unit must share the facilities downstairs in the to-be-converted dwelling. Now, I don't believe that that in any way indicates being subordinate to the underlying function of the site's residential dwelling, given that the proposed enduring operation of the site is reliant on the occupants of the dwelling assisting with the day-to-day operations associated with the proposed development, and the manager's residence utilises the shared facilities. The residential component is 83.6 metres squared, but the short-term accommodation and shared areas within the existing dwelling total 651.2 metres squared. To state that the short-term accommodation use is subordinate to the residential use is, in my opinion, nothing short of ludicrous. All 3 cabins have a considerably greater gross floor area than the manager's residence. The existing dwelling can function without the cabins, however the cabins cannot function without the on-site manager's residence. That's it on it. H, there was no needs assessment provided. The application is totally devoid of a needs assessment, identification of an undersupply of short-term accommodation or of meeting an identified need within the location. There's been no demonstration of need for the proposed development. In fact, need does not appear to have been considered in the 113-page document prepared by Urban Pulse Consulting dated December 23. There's no economic or community need for this development, particularly at this location and within the low-density mountain residential precinct. It has no benefit to the residential community and limited, if any, benefit to the broader community, given that need cannot be established as the supply of available tourism accommodation cannot be accurately quantified by council, and given the proliferation of unregulated and unregistered Airbnb operators on the mountain, which has been addressed by the applicant, surprisingly, the development will not complement existing tourism products within the region, but rather will compete with an unknown supply of tourism accommodation, including registered and licensed bed and breakfast operators and motels. Okay, the Regional Prosperity Strategy and the Nature-Based Tourism Strategy 2023-2032 recognises the importance of tourism and the role it can play in the region's continued economic development. To that end, Council commissioned an audit of existing accommodation and bed stock in the Scenic Rim. The draft results were presented verbally to council. We have not as yet seen the formal outcome. However, the indication was that of all recorded listings for Airbnbs across the Scenic Rim, there were likely to be more than 50% located on Tambourine Mountain, which hardly indicates an undersupply. Okay, I've got several more pages, but I think I'll leave it there. And thank you for your tolerance.
Questions?
Mr. Mayor, I'd really like to hear from the officer on this one before we talk about it. Is that possible?
Yep, any question, Councillor Sanders?
No. I think that's worn me down a little bit. I'd love to hear from the officer first so we can have a bit of a discussion. Thank you.
Can I say that's why I circulated it?
Through the Mayor, so I note the points raised by Councillor Hay. An in-depth assessment's been provided against this planning scheme, relevant matters, the submissions that were provided, and that's been detailed in the report, which is why the officers have come forward with their recommendation. The points that have been raised were noted in the report as well, so we acknowledge that there are parts that I suppose show non-compliance with the planning scheme. So happy to answer any questions if there's, I suppose, a lack of clarity.
Can you talk about the hours of operation too, please?
Yes, so through the Mayor, hours of operation condition was imposed in the condition suite that's been provided, which limits guests from arriving between 10 p.m. to 6 a.m, which is consistent with the code in our planning scheme.
And your recommendation,
On the screen. The recommendation.
sorry, I'm not going to read. Yeah, your recommendation takes into account the thought process in relation to if we ended up in a legal issue over this one.
Through the Mayor, our professional recommendations will always consider the potential for challenge of the decision. We consider using the Planning Act the relevant matters that we can bring into assessment, including assessment against the matters that we must consider being the benchmarks and the matters that we may being the relevant matters. Those have been considered as part of the report in a broad approach as the Act implores us to do, which is why we've come to the recommendation that we did. If there was grounds for refusal beyond that, then they've been detailed in the second option for the councillors.
Thank you. Any further questions? If I may, through the CEO, I have a question in relation, just if you could flesh out for us in terms of the compatibility in terms of the inconsistent use in the mountain residential precinct, particularly given that it is a low density residential zone. And then secondly, if you could also talk to the gross floor area inconsistencies that do not meet the planning scheme on any level.
Through the Mayor, on the first part of your question, the mountain residential precinct does accommodate a few uses, which are, as mentioned previously, primarily residential. So looking at dwelling houses, short-term accommodation, holiday homes, and some other small-scale uses that fit in with general residences. The mountain residential precinct is quite large and does include a lot of zoned land. In that precinct, there are predominantly lots between about 600 to 2,000 square metres. This lot itself presents itself as quite a large lot in comparison to a lot of those, which has been considered as part of the relevant matters. So that talks to, I suppose, the overall density of the site. It's recognised that there's non-compliances because the planning scheme is quite clear in how those are interpreted, but that's why the officer's report has taken into, I suppose, regard the relevant matters that come into this. As far as the second part with gross floor areas, my apologies, the site cover of each of those accommodation units, with the exception of the manager's residence, are about 78 to 80 square metres. That's their site cover. Because they're two-storey, the second storey does come into the calculation for gross floor area. So that includes all floor areas of the building, not just the initial floor. So while there is exceedance of the 100 square metres, as high as approximately 140 square metres on one of those cabins, it's the officer's belief that it could comply with the performance outcome because of the site cover, the size of the site, and I suppose the general surrounds.
Thank you. Any further questions? Just sorry if there aren't, just a further question on impact, because it's been raised today a lot about B&Bs, but the impact is, if this complied and this was just a residential application, what would be the difference in impact between that and a B&B? And what I'm talking about is the impact is the number of bathrooms, the number of vehicle movements, etc. That sort of impact. What is the difference that has an impact on those neighbours and those people living on Tamborine Mountain?
So the planning scheme obviously designs very broadly to manage impacts in a way that's acceptable without council needing to have a look at every and all applications that come across a desk. Dwelling houses, for instance, can, as of right, be effectively established as long as they comply with a few requirements on a vacant block of land. As that scale increases, of course, the more sensitive receptors there are in proximity, the more opportunity is for them to be impacted. Those have been considered in the conditions of approval through buffering the site to sort of manage how it interacts with its adjoining neighbours. As far as, I suppose, being able to lodge, say, a code application through the planning scheme, that would consider some really clear guidelines and provide a bounded assessment. Impact assessment has been brought in under the Planning Act to allow development to effectively demonstrate its performance, sometimes if there are non-compliance with the planning scheme itself. So that's where, I suppose, the relevant matters have come in for consideration and detailed through the report as to how those conflicts would be addressed effectively.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Councillor Sanders?
Well, I think our planning scheme is all about allowing development, not stopping development. I think there's a lot of other developments around the area that are very much, well, maybe not exactly like this, but to have higher density. I note that the hours of occupation have been answered. I note that that council wants to be very, very careful in relation to fighting the battles that it believes it will win. And while I do understand the councillors' concern and going through all the performance outcomes and the planning scheme, not every development that is of real value can meet those requirements. I totally believe that this type of development, there is a need for it. I don't think they need to necessarily provide a needs analysis. I'm quite happy that we do need that type of development. I know that a lot of people will disagree and they'll say, no, you know, bring up the drawbridge. We don't want anybody else there. But as for a battle that we want to fight, do we want to fight that sort of battle? I think the people that own this block of land have really looked at what they want to do there, and they've tried to come up with something that they're proud of. And so I won't be supporting a refusal on this application.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone wishing to talk for the motion?
Mayor, could I just respond very briefly, please?
Yes, Councillor.
Okay,
I'll let you sum up at the end. How about we do it that way?
Yep.
If there's anyone wishing to talk for the motion. Councillor Hay?
Thank you, Chair. I'm not against the development per se. I'm against the development in the proposed location. We have a planning scheme for a reason, and the existing residents have an expectation that the planning scheme will be upheld and provide the level of amenity that they have come to expect and what they pay their very high rates for. We're not bringing up the drawbridge. If this was located in the minor tourism zone, I would not have raised any issues whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. I put the motion to the floor. Those in favour? Those against? Motion defeated.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to propose a new motion.
Certainly.
One, that council receive and note the report titled MCU 23-189 Development Permit for a Material Change of Use for Short-Term Accommodation at 19 to 25 Capo Lane, Tambourine Mountain, Lot 5, RP 868391. And 2, council approved development application MCU 23-189 and grant a development permit for a material change of use subject to the conditions as outlined in this report. And 3, council note that any subsequent request for a negotiated decision notice and or change applications to the approval MCU 23-189 as well as any administrative corrections to the conditions will be processed via delegated authority where the changes would not significantly alter the original decision.
Can I have a seconder to the motion? Councillor McGuinness. Councillor Sanders, you wish to talk to the motion?
I'd just like to say thank you very much to Councillor Hayes, who's done so much work on this. I think we've got to just be aware that a lot of applications do not maybe meet with every single performance outcome for our planning scheme, but it doesn't mean that the development application as such is bad. It just means that maybe the applicant has a different idea for the area. I'm hoping this will be a really good quality development, and I just wish everybody good luck. Thanks.
Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? Councillor Hay.
Thank you. I'm just have a question. Have we fixed up all the incorrect conditions of approval that I've highlighted?
Through Mr Mayor to the officer.
Sorry, thank you. Through the Mayor. Which conditions, sorry,
Parking would be one.
have been highlighted?
Sorry, there was one condition that said, I did circulate these as well. There was one condition that said there couldn't be more than 40 consecutive nights. The Planning Act says 3 months, so that one's wrong. The parking said there needed to be, the way it read, there needed to be 6 car parks per cabin, which equated to 24 car parks, not 6. And there were others. I also highlighted that there's a deficiency in that there is no complaints register recorded, even though the applicant raised the issue of potential complaints in their application. We didn't bother to add that one in. I could go on, but I don't think there's any point.
Through the Mayor. The 40 consecutive nights comes from the planning scheme. That's a provision that's in our scheme. It's a standard condition that we apply to short-term accommodation, consistent with the Planning Act's definition for maximum stay period of 3 months. As far as the other conditions are concerned, as the parking has been considered by development engineers and the condition remains as has been written, and the complaints register was not included as they're not standard conditions that we would include on short-term accommodation proposals of this size. It's considered that through the landscaping, through the hours of operation and through some of the other conditions that are included in the development conditions package, that those can be managed appropriately without a complaints register that would lead to further compliance action that I suppose would be outside of our usual processes. We follow compliance action on these if there's non-compliance with conditions, we're of the belief that if complaints are raised, we can accurately go through and ensure compliance without that condition.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to talk for the motion?
No, Mayor, I'd just like to make a comment if I may.
Please.
I tend to agree with Councillor Hay. When I read this the original proposal that was brought before council by the officers, given the size of the land and the nature of the development, there certainly was potential for this development to meet acceptable outcomes. What really concerned me more than anything than the actual application was the fact that throughout the officers had pointed out a number of reasons why the development was not compliant with the planning scheme, but then the recommendation was that it be accepted. So I guess moving forward, what I'd like to see is more of an attempt made on the part of the officers to work with the applicants to address the issues of concern, so we do come up with something which is more in keeping with the accepted land use on that particular area. I too am not 100% against the application per se, but I was extremely disappointed that there wasn't more of an effort made to put a development together which was more in keeping with the accepted land use under the planning scheme in that zone.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone wishing to talk for the motion? I'll talk for the motion on the basis, and I take into account also the work that Councillor Hay has done. I also take into account the comments that Councillor Moriarty has made, and that unless the planning scheme states unequivocally that it's black and white what the rules are, then we have to make our resolutions in accordance with the planning scheme. And one of the major considerations in terms of, or for me, in terms of this resolution is the impact on residents. I'm taking into account the size of the block of land. I'm taking into account the number of residents living in the area, and if this was a residential application, then what would be the amount of movements by cars per day? What is the amount of beds in each dwelling that is allowed? This is in accordance with what would be a residential development. And so that impact, in my mind, is to the minimal, and the application is in line. And on that basis, I am supporting the motion. Did you wish to sum up, Councillor?
Oh, thank you very much. I think one of the things that we've got to be aware of is the South East Queensland Regional Plan and Shaping Queensland, and also the fact that the state planner is trying to convince us that we need to have more development in the area. I think this is quite an interesting one. I'm hoping that the community will embrace it, and I'm happy to proceed with an approval for this one.
I put it to the members. Those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried. Call for a division. Those in favour, Mayor, divisions 4, 5 and 6. Those against, divisions 1, 2 and 3. Thank you. Call upon Councillor Chalk to introduce item 11.12.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, today I'll introduce report 11.12, which is the Scenic Olympic Sport and Recreation Advisory Committee update. It gives me sort of great pleasure actually to introduce this report, because I think it's a great initiative and it's going really well. The purpose of this committee, the Scenic Olympic Sport and Recreation Advisory Committee, which was formed in April 2025 by Council, provides strategic advice, guidance and community perspectives on opportunities related to the Brisbane 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games. The committee acts as an advisory body, bringing together representatives from sporting organisations, community groups, government agencies and industry stakeholders. The establishment of the committee positions Council to take a proactive and coordinated approach to shaping a vibrant and inclusive sports future for our region. The committee consists of myself as the chair, Councillor Moriarty, former rowing Maddie Hasgrove, previous team manager to the Australian rowing team and rowing commentator, including the 2000 Olympics, Ray Razor Ebert, the Southport School Director of Rowing, Bruce Wright, and Rowing Australia boat racing official and umpire Jeremy Parsons. Former rowing Olympian and CEO of Rowing Australia, Sarah Cook, is an observer to the committee, as is the Scenic Rim Regional Council Mayor Tom Sharp. The Scenic Rim Regional Council CEO and Acting Manager of Regional Prosperity and Communications and Economic Development Officer, and also observing to the committee. Meetings are held approximately every 3 weeks. The agenda's items discussed at these meetings pertain to the business activities and initiatives being undertaken by the committee in response to planning for the Brisbane 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games, including the Games Independent Infrastructure and Coordination Authority and the 100-day review into the Games infrastructure and planning. The committee is focused on issues and opportunities relevant across the Scenic Rim region. I'll follow that up with just moving a motion, and then I can comment further on that, Mr. Mayor. The motion that I'll move is Council note the Scenic Rim Olympics Sport and Recreation Advisory Committee meeting minutes for meetings held on 23rd of May 2025, 9th of June 2025 and 20th of June 2025. And 2, Council note the activities and initiatives being undertaken by the Scenic Rim Olympics Sport and Recreation Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Moriarty. Anyone wishing... You've spoken to your motion, Councillor Chalk.
No, I'd like to speak sort of from my perspective, if that's okay. Yes, it's been fantastic to form this committee. We've brought together some really good people in the industry of rowing and sports in general, as I listed before. And I really believe and I congratulate them for their buy-in. They offer a lot of expertise and experience and opinions, which have been very insightful and very positive so far, which has been fantastic. I guess it's our opinion that the move to Rockhampton for the rowing 2032 has some significant challenges, which that needs to be addressed. So I guess we want to position ourselves in a position where because we still believe that Warralong Dam is the best fit for the 2032 games. I believe the key things that have came out so far is that Warralong Dam is the athlete preferred site, and also probably the preferred site for rowing in general. The important part of the Olympic agenda is legacy, and we still believe that Warralong Dam fits that, is the only site that fits that long term, considering that it hosts most of the current activities in Queensland rowing, and is already being used in that function. So we think that it's the best fit still. We know the games must stay in Queensland, so we don't consider there's any other option. And I think we also have had great discussions and addressed some of the perceived inhibitors to our proposal for what Lake Warralong. Probably I've noticed the athletes' accommodation, which it's been a revelation to hear from Maddie, who's a former Olympian, and a few others who describe the needs of the rowers a lot differently than what we probably understood further, that they stay in groups in their own accommodation closer to the site. Because there's so many athletes and the support staff required, and nearly 10% of the athletes that attend games are for the rowing events, and also the transport to and from the games. We think we've got some great solutions for that as well. So we just need to get those points pushed out there as much as we can, so that if there is the opportunity for a rethink or a new assessment on the games, that we're saying that we're ready to go. So I'll leave it at that, Mr. Mayor, and you've also been a part of the meeting, so I'm sure you'll have something to add. Thank you.
I think you summed it up pretty well, Councillor. Are there any questions arising?
I do have a question, if that's okay.
Councillor?
So this is wonderful. I note what Mr. Mayor, Councillor Moriarty and Councillor Chalk are doing. Is there any way, any other things that we can do to, try and push forward the idea for wire along? Do the AOC see information from this meeting? Are we providing all of this information to the AOC, or how are we promoting ourselves?
Who are you directing your question to?
Actually, to yourself and Councillor Chalk would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I can address that. In our first meeting, we spoke about communication plan, which set out ways to do exactly what you're asking to do. So that's a continual discussion that we're having on how to get the message out there. You've seen recently some news articles. I think the Mayor's led them, which has been fantastic, and put out by council, just to start addressing those either perceptions or put our thoughts and feelings across, like you're suggesting. We are trying to work hard to work with everybody involved, but we also need to put our point of view strongly across that in 2032 we still want the games at Warralong Dam. We think it's the best place to do that. It's got the best legacy performance. It's where the athletes want to be, and we can solve a lot of the cost issues that were probably attached to our proposal that we think are probably weren't quite accurate. So that communication plan we address every time, and we try to evolve. So any suggestions from councillors or council staff or even the community who hear this are welcomed, and we've probably drawn upon that support from those really expert people in the field as well, who have come, like I said earlier, have really bought in really hard and provided some really good insights. So,
and to add to it, just to put it into context, some of the bodies are limited in what they can actually say. Hypothetically, there might be a Queensland senator that would be putting pressure on those bodies to come out and support Fitzroy, and they will clearly say, well, that is not in our remit. We do not have the position of authority, or we're not able to make a comment on that. That sits firmly with the IOC. And so the importance of the work of Councillor Chalk and Moriarty and this committee in advocating for our region is that it is a bit of a wait and a see until World Rowing and IOC lands on where they think or lands in terms of whether they are going to support Rockhampton as rowing for the Olympics in 2032. Any other questions? Councillor McGuinness.
A couple of comments, Mayor, and just following on from your comments there, I suppose, too, but it disappointed me to hear on the news this morning from that our Premier is up in, given that it's 7 years today till it starts, he's up in Rockhampton this morning, spruiking what a great place it is and how it'll be all ready and everything else. I don't believe, in my humble opinion, that he's doing himself or the community any good by doing that, but that's his choice to do, and if they have to make a change, I don't think it'll look very good to his part. The other comment I wanted to make too is that I spoke to one of our residents the other day who set up rowing in Mackay and ended up with an OAM because of it, but he was saying this is the only course in Queensland that runs north-south. I didn't realise that, and I meant to ring Councillor Chalk and let him know, but he said it's just so much better rowing north-south than east-west, and as you can imagine, sun in your eyes and everything else, you know, you're able to see your opponent so much better. And it just made so much sense that it is in this way, and it's something that I wasn't aware of at all, but it's virtually due north-south, the course at Warralong, so it's there's no wonder that the athletes prefer this sort of course compared to some of the others, but they're just an incidental, evidently. But it's a pity that it has played out in the political scene. Yeah, but such is life.
Thank you, Councillor McInnes. Since the announcement, we've seen Australia-wide people raise more questions on the decision than any other venue or any other sporting question in relation to 2032 Olympics. So that in itself is somewhat a red flag. We can only hope that the state government is listening, and it's not just about the scenic rim, and it's not just about Lake Warralong, and I think Councillor McInnes highlights that point very well. What is it that the rowers of Australia and Queensland actually want and actually need, and where do they want to row to be competitive? And that is probably one of the key first priorities, and hopefully the state government will seriously take that into account in terms of not only that, the governing body, in terms of what the IOC and World Rowing are going to say about Rockhampton. Councillor Moriarty.
Thank you, Mayor. I think what I was going to say has been pretty well covered by previous speakers. Just want to acknowledge everyone for their contribution to the committee, and Councillor Chalk for his leadership, and the council officers involved who are doing work. If any measure of success of the committee in its very early stages is that we're back in the conversation. It was very heartening to see an article in the Courier Mail with yourself, Mayor, commenting on the issue, because since the announcement was made for Rockhampton, Warralong has all of a sudden, for no good reason, just dropped completely off the radar. So the important thing is we're back in the conversation and when they're swinging, and absolutely sure it's the best venue without a shadow of a doubt for rowing, and the out of water issues which have been raised as being of concern will be able to be addressed. So really looking forward to progressing. With regard to Councillor Sanders' comment about what more we can do, even just as councillors, and there's a number of regattas coming up next term out at, or this term and next term out at Warralong School Regattas. So a presence out there, I think, and media attention, and continuing to draw media attention to Warralong, and the fact that a number of those regattas have been relocated from Rockhampton to Warralong because the course up there is not fit for service, is really worth highlighting. So we'll get behind any regattas that come along, and having a presence out there, highlighting in the media would be a great place to start, I would suggest.
Well said. Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions? Councillor Cryer?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to make note in this discussion reasons why I think that Councillor McGuinness was pointing out that the rowers prefer Warralong. Is evidence in this discussion in that all the way up from the coast to Cairns has been 4 regattas, but Lake Warralong has 40 plus events a year, is what was mentioned. So that's an indication of that's a preferred and better course. And also in answer to also Councillor Sanders, what more can we do? There was also a suggestion of a parliamentary petition as well. So, that's probably something else that can be pursued as well.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone wishing to talk against the motion? You wish to sum up, Councillor?
I'll just sum up, yeah, if it's okay.
Thank you.
I agree with all the comments made, and I thank all the councillors for their comments. It's very relevant and very on point. I guess just in closing, I'd say one of the major draw cards for the Olympics was getting that legacy and getting that infrastructure that we so sorely need in our region, but especially legacy around the rowing industry itself. And Lake Warralong is already the home of Queensland rowing, with calculated over 93% of the rowers are in southeast Queensland. So we believe it's not just about the Olympics; it's about the future of the sport, and both professionally and recreationally, and for the school students in southeast Queensland. And what better way to do that is to build a facility for the Olympics that will have a lasting legacy beyond that, for our southeast Queensland, which is going to be the largest growing area in our state. It seems like a good investment to me. So we just need to keep getting the messages out there, and this committee is certainly working hard to do that. So I put forward the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I put the motion to the members. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. I call upon Councillor Cryer to introduce late item 1113.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce item 1113, Domestic and Family Violence Leaders Forum. It was a late item, so I take the report as read. I'll just touch on a few points, and then I will speak to it after I move the motion. Council, through its community development team, continues to support a range of initiatives aimed at preventing domestic and family violence, DFV. As part of this ongoing commitment, Council recently accepted an invitation to reaffirm its participation in the DFV Champions Network, an initiative of the Queensland DFV Prevention Council. 3 representatives were nominated as champions, with myself, Councillor Sanders, and Council's Principal Specialist Community Development. So I'd like to move to the motion that 1, Council note the report on Council's Domestic and Family Violence Champions participation at the 2025 Domestic and Family Violence Leaders Forum, and 2, Council support the nominated Domestic and Family Violence Champions to progress key actions that will strengthen Council's domestic and family violence prevention response through a coordinated and sustainable approach.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconded to the motion. Councillor Hay. Councillor Crowe, you wish to talk to your motion?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Chair. It was a great privilege for myself, along with Councillor Jennifer Sanders and Carla, Principal Specialists of Community Development, to attend the Domestic and Family Violence Leaders Forum held in July at the CUQ University campus in Mackay. On our Council's behalf, I would like to extend the greatest of thanks to the Local Government Association of Queensland for provision of travel bursaries, which enabled us to attend the forum. Domestic and family violence creates an immense cost to all those involved in every way, mentally, physically and financially. With 56 out of 77 councils registered on the DFV Prevention Council network, the forum was well attended by dedicated local and regional Prevention Council members, mayors, councillors and others committed to joining together in the prevention of domestic and family violence. The DFV Leaders Forum is one of the many steps to be taken on the road for creation of a coordinated approach with a standard of quality amplified through the support of government to ultimately elicit a whole community response through awareness and engagement from a principal level. Tim Cox, Senior Communications Advisor of the LGAQ, opened the forum commenting how there are currently on average 526 occurrences a day, which equates to an incident of DFV approximately every 3 minutes across Queensland. Alison Smith, Chief Executive Officer of the LGAQ, addressed the audience, speaking at length about the critical roles councils can play in working towards the prevention of DFV. Vanessa Fowler, OAM, told how the idea for the DFV Prevention Council network commenced in 2020, touching on her own very personal story and reason for her passionate involvement. The Honourable Amanda Cam MP, Minister for Families, Seniors and Disability Services and Minister for Child Safety and the Prevention of Domestic and Family Violence, spoke personal heartfelt words about her role in the battle towards prevention of domestic and family violence and of the funding of approximately $382 million committed in the 2025-26 budget by the state government. And this is quite interesting. In a panel discussion with the Queensland Police Service, from the data presented, it was disturbing to learn that the number of incidents is clearly on the rise, with the amount of police responses recorded against codes of domestic violence, disturbance and disputes, and welfare checks moving quickly above those of noise complaints, theft and traffic incidences as people become more comfortable with reporting. Unfortunately, although with approximately only 20% of incidents actually being reported, this is sadly seen as merely the tip of the iceberg, a closed private issue in need of a public solution. Various councils who have already engaged with the network spoke about their work so far for their Together in Prevention campaigns, revealing ideas of benefit including mapping of resources and creation of strategies such as a DFE Safe Phone program, for example, ideas which could be drawn upon for our own council's work in this extremely important space. Workshops undertaken in the forum presented steps on how council can achieve an effective campaign, examining how emotive content can provoke and move people to care and empower our community, including our groups and businesses, to participate. There were many key takeaways from the forum, from the very informative workshops, presentations and panel discussions, but one of the most important is that our council can play a very significant and important role through the network of the DFE Prevention Council in our undertaking to create positive change for the prevention of DFE. As we move forward as network champions, through focusing on the creation of a whole community response for the prevention of DFE by working with other network champions within the DFE Prevention Council, and implementation of further training and engagement such as White Ribbon, with creation of an effective council campaign focused on raising awareness to no longer accept or normalise this type of behaviour within our regional community, I feel we can move forward towards achieving our goal through council of prevention of DFE in our community and to minimise the cost it inflicts. As a council, we have a story to tell and a responsibility to our community to deliver it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there any questions or any comments that the members wish to make? Councillor Sanders?
It was a very, very interesting conference actually, and it was quite positive in that we're trying to lift awareness and make people understand. One little story that they told was a little lady, she was probably in her late 60s, early 70s, and she was volunteering at one of these outreach centres, and they poured some paint into a container, and she wanted to know whether she could actually paint the wall. And the lady said, "Of course she can paint the wall." Oh, her husband had never ever let her decide that she could paint a wall, update anything, pay a bill, anything. So she was so terrified of even putting the paint, the brush in the paint and actually painting a wall, and she was so excited. And the next thing she said, after her husband had died, she's going to go on a cruise. She's never ever been on a holiday in her life, and she was going to go on a cruise. So it was, look, there's some lovely stories, and it was quite interesting. And the astounding figures of 80% of call-outs by the police just show this is so prevalent, and we know that it's not. One of the things you'd say is it's not a council core process, but we've also got to be aware that not only councillors, members of the public, our community, our staff, all could be affected by this. So we've got to make sure that we keep everybody safe as we possibly can.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comment, question? Councillor McInnes?
Yes, Mayor, those last comments of Councillor Sanders, I was going to say at different neighbourhood watch meetings I go to, and you don't think it's an issue in our area, but the number of instances that our local police actually get called out to, there is. I thought the first time I heard it, that's just a one-off, but no, it's not a one-off. It's month after month that they come up with these. Yeah, a lot of their time, and it does vary. And I've heard those same sort of figures up to 80%, but it sort of there's a lot of work they do, and in various forms there, and it's good on them for doing it, but they just have to keep up that work and keep people safe. And if council can play a part, I think it'd be great.
Thank you, Councillor. I think that is the point, that it is on the rise. South East Queensland of 4 million people growing to 6, and it is going to impact our region. We've also seen a domestic violence a segment in the market rising through the homelessness that is occurring across South East Queensland and is coming to our region. I commend the councillors for their interest in wanting to participate in this area and bring the awareness within our region as part of that leadership and the actions that have been laid out as the follow-up in the recommendation today. So thank you. I put it to the members, those in... sorry. You wish to sum up?
Yeah, sorry, no, not to sum up, but I just like to say there is a lot of work to be done in this space, and councils can definitely play a very large part in this forum. There was some information gathered by a survey. At that point, they had only 17% of councils had a dedicated website page, only 2% had a chair a specific group, and only 26% had a dedicated DFE strategy. So, like, there's many areas here that can be worked on, and there are by council, and there are also like 127 types of Queensland government DFE services available. So there's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of programs, and there's a lot of work to do to, as you say, to try and make the community safer.
Thank you, Councillor. And for those who are interested in the report, the key activities that are underway by this council are set out. With that said, I put the motion to the members. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. I believe we're now going into confidential and call on a motion from the floor. Thank you, Councillor Sanders.
Council at this time resolve to go into closed session with the following motion: that in accordance with Council's standing orders for Council meeting policy and the provisions of Section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council close the meeting to public to discuss confidential items as follows. 12.1, land acquisition for road purposes, closed under Section 254J3H, and 12.2, consideration for the purchase of land for future strategic purposes, closed under Section 254J3H, as discussions will be held about a proposed land acquisition and purchase of land.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Moriarty. Those in favour? Carried. We will now close the meeting and come back on the half hour. Thank you. Thank you, and I note that at 11:30, following discussion in closed session, council meeting will now resume into open session for and propose that resolution. Could I have a seconder? Councillor Sanders, those in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you. Now call upon Councillor Sanders to introduce item 12.1.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Item 12.1, land acquisition for road purposes. I move straight to the motion. Option 1, that 1. Council note the content of this report, which identifies the need to acquire land for road purposes over part of the property identified in this report, which will facilitate the upgrade of the road. 2. Council acknowledge that council officers will continue to negotiate with the owner of the property as identified within this report to acquire the part of the property by agreement, and if negotiations are successful, enter into a contract of purchase on terms satisfactory to the Chief Executive Officer. And 3, if the acquisition of the property as identified in this report by agreement is unsuccessful, that Council delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer in accordance with Section 2571 of the Local Government Act 2009 to undertake activities under the Section 7, 8 and 9 of the Acquisition of Land Act 1967, including hearing objections under Section 8, and, if no objections to the notice of intention to resume are received, to decide whether to make an application to the Minister to take the property identified in this report under Section 9 of the Acquisition of Land Act 1967. 4, if there is an objection to the notice of intention to resume, a report tabling the objection or objections is to be presented to Council to determine whether the notice of intention to resume should be amended or whether Council should discontinue the resumption or make application to the Minister to take the part of the property as identified in this report under Section 9 of the Acquisition of Land Act 1967, and 5, all reasonable costs of survey, valuation fees, legal costs, registration, stamp duty, and all other fees associated with the acquisition of the property as identified in this report be at Council's expense. I so move.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Chalk. I put it to the floor. Those in favour? Those against? Please note that. Is a vote against. We'll take it as a vote against. So call for a division.
You want a division? Okay. I can do that.
Motion carried.
Yeah, I'll do
Do
it.
you want me to carry on?
Yeah, it's fine.
Thank you. I call upon Councillor Chalk to introduce item 12.2.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll introduce report 12.2, consideration for the purchase of land for future strategic purposes, which was closed under section 254J3H. The motion that I'll move is that 1, council commence the negotiations to acquire the parcel of land as provided for in the report for future strategic purposes. 2, council delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer.
Chief Executive.
Chief Executive in accordance with section 2571 of the Local Government Act 2009 to settle negotiations and finalise acquisition of the parcel of land as provided for in the report. The delegation will end once the negotiations have been finalised. And 3, council authorise a budget for this strategic land purchase from existing council funds, and this expenditure be incorporated as part of the end of financial year carry forward process and reflected within the revised 2025-2026 capital budget. So,
Thank you. Seconded to the motion? Councillor Sanders, thank you. Put the motion to the floor. Those in favour? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. With that said, that now draws the meeting to a close and officially close the meeting at 11:34 a.m. Thank you.